Hello, good day. I am Penno Halandani. I am a lawyer in the Netherlands, in Utrecht. But first of all, before I introduce myself, I would like to thank Bayanihan for inviting me to speak at the International Women's Day celebration there in Rotterdam. Unfortunately, I had committed myself already to another event because I'm also a coach of my son in the basketball, so I have to coach him today at the basketball game. But hopefully, through this video, I can still share some legal points and be there with you during this celebration. Well, as I said, I'm a lawyer based in Utrecht. I work at the law firm Schoolplein Advocaten, and I handle mainly labor cases and immigration law cases. And I've to work together with Bayanihan for more than 15 years already, with different cases for Filipinas. And unfortunately, we've also had several cases with domestic violence. And I would like to share a little on the laws in the Netherlands regarding domestic violence. But first, I will explain the difference between criminal law, civil law, and administrative law. And after that, I will talk about the specific rules and regulations within those laws. I can imagine that after this video, there will be many questions regarding relating to specific individual cases and situations. You can always email me or contact me through Bayanihan or directly. I think Bayanihan also has my contact details. Now, the distinction of different laws. Basically, there's the situation of the citizen versus the government and the situation of the citizen versus the citizen. In the situation of the citizen versus the government, there are two sets. The first one is the citizen, the criminal law. These are laws regarding murder, theft. These are cases where the police is usually involved, and based on findings of the police, if the state believes that the act committed is an intrusion in the rules of the criminal rules and laws of the country, the police or the public prosecutor can prosecute a citizen in a criminal court of law. The second one, in the situation of the citizen versus the government, is administrative law. And these are laws and regulations needed for the country to be run effectively. So these are the situation where there are permits, like residence permits, but also housing permits, building permits. And if you violate these rules, the government or the administration can issue a fine or withdraw the permit. Now, the other situation was if it's a citizen versus a citizen, so that is civil law. So these are, for examples, when you purchase something, when you buy, you buy something at the grocery store, or if you rent a house, or a labor contract, but also marriage. It's also a contract between two citizens. And these cases are brought in a civil court of law. So, back to the criminal law. The Dutch criminal law has some specific articles protecting citizens in the case of domestic violence. So the first article that I would like to explain, it's what they call in Dutch bedreiging, and that's in Article 285 of the Criminal Code. So that is if someone is threatening the other. So if the partner is threatening the other partner, that could constitute Article 285 as bedreiging or threatening, and that can lead to a criminal to sanctions in criminal court. The other article, and that is stalking. In Dutch, it's belaging, and that's in 285, Article 285b of the Criminal Code. And this article is actually layered in several situations. So what they consider the lightest form of stalking, that is calling, texting, use of email, but also social media. Then it becomes a little heavier, and that's if the ex-partner also passes by the house, comes to the house, and then the heaviest type of stalking is if the ex-partner is also contacting the employer, contacting friends and family. So that is in Article 285b. Then there's also, of course, cases, unfortunately, of abuse. So that's in Article 300 or 304. That's what they call in Dutch mishandeling. And mishandeling or abuse can also be even heavier in the case of heavy abuse or even attempted heavy abuse. So that's, for example, if a weapon is involved or even the use of a headbutt. So these are quite serious crimes already. Then quite often in domestic violence cases, there's also a situation where property is destroyed, like the cell phones are thrown, or maybe things are destroyed. So also the destruction of property, in Dutch vernieling, that's also part of the domestic violence articles, and that's in Article 350 of the Criminal Code. Now, the Dutch public prosecution has also issued guidelines for the police how to deal with domestic violence, and it's stated in the richtlijn voor strafvordering huiselijk geweld. And interesting about this guideline is that the public prosecutor states that the basic rule is that the public prosecutor prosecutes the cases in front of in a court of law. Now the problem is with the prosecution is the burden of proof, or the proof in these cases, because usually there are no witnesses in domestic violence cases. And therefore, as a victim of domestic violence, it's really important to talk to your doctor, to social worker, and to file the case with the police. Because each prosecution in the Netherlands starts with what they call an aangifte. And that's without the aangifte, or the petition for a request for a prosecution, without the aangifte, the criminal case cannot start. I also realized that with a lot of Filipinos in the Netherlands, they are undocumented. And in some cities in the Netherlands, mainly the larger cities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, maybe also The Hague, I think also undocumented people can file criminal cases in a project, what they call, I think, veilig aangifte. So if you are undocumented and if you're a victim of a crime, then you can check with the local organizations if the police in the area has this veilig aangifte project, and in that case you can also file the criminal complaint. The second law is the administrative law, and it also has some rules regarding domestic violence. One interesting rule law in the administrative law is that the mayor of a city can issue a restraining order forbidding someone to enter his house for a maximum period of 4 weeks if there is a situation of possible domestic violence. This period of 4 weeks is used to assess the situation. So the mayor will contact also other organizations involved, like what they call buurtteams or social teams, but also maybe the doctor, the police, to assess the situation and also to check if they can look for housing or whatever is necessary. So this is an important law in domestic violence cases. Then one of the other things in domestic violence cases is usually also residency. the residence permit for many Filipinas are connected to their partner. And quite often they are afraid to leave their partner because of fear that they will lose their residence permit. This is not always necessary because also in the Dutch immigration law, there are some rules or possibilities to apply for a new residence permit based on humanitarian grounds. However, it is very important to be able to show as much evidence as possible. And it's therefore also important to file the criminal case, the aangifte, to have the medical records, statements from social workers, and any other proof or documentation you have of the domestic violence. Sometimes neighbors have heard it. Maybe there are pictures, maybe there's videotape, any proof. And it's really important to have that for any possibilities to check if you can apply for a new residence permit. I think it's always good to check with a lawyer first before you decide to leave the house or to change the residence permit. Then the other type of law is the civil law. So that is between citizens to citizens. And of course, in the case of domestic violence, it's the partners, the violence between partners. So if there are damages incurred because of the domestic violence, whether that be material damage or immaterial damage, like psychological damage, that could constitute an unlawful act. And in Dutch, it's called onrechtmatige daad. And if there's damage, then the damage could be claimed as well. There are two ways of claiming the damage. The first one is, first system is to claim it in the criminal procedure. So the criminal court can also look at the damage incurred and already give a decision on it, but they don't decide on it extensively. So sometimes if there's more damage or not, the criminal court doesn't want to take up all the damage that was filed, then you might have to file the case in a civil court of law. Another point which is important, I think, to mention is that in a relationship in the Netherlands, if the relationship is in a marriage, there is a possibility to file a divorce in the Netherlands. And I know that in the Philippines, the divorce between Filipinos partners it's still not possible. But if the marriage is between a Filipino or a Filipina and a foreign spouse, then the divorce could be recognized in the Philippines. So that's important to know that you could also get out of the relationship. Normally, if I would be there with you physically, I would open this up for questions, so you could ask me any questions about this, because I can imagine there will be many questions. Unfortunately, I'm not there, but you can always send me an email or contact me through Bayanihan if you have any questions, and also if you have any specific situations you want to present to me. The last thing that I want to mention in domestic violence cases, and it's not so much legal advice, but I think the most important thing is the safety of the victim. So if you're a victim of domestic violence, I think the number one priority is to make sure that you're safe. So that's always what we advise is to put your safety at the first place. And then after that, you can contact a lawyer and then talk about all the rules and regulations, but it's most important that you stay safe. So I'll end this short presentation. I wish you a good and fun day with this International Women's Day celebration, and I hope to be there next time. Goodbye. Thank you.